Everyone, so we are very happy to, it's very impressive actually to have this loyal audience on the Sunday afternoon at 3 p.m. Dealing to one Roma's wonderful film. I think most of you are familiar with the Anglo-Russian Culture Club, so we try to represent significant academics, filmmakers, writers, both from Russia, the UK, and Europe as well, and try to conduct some sort of transcultural dialogue. And Roma's project is particularly dear to us because I think he's been striving quite successfully to find a particular cinematic language for events that are really not cinematic, they're mostly in the literary realm. So he's, I know that Roma is very prolific, that he's a filmmaker and scriptwriter who graduated from Gerasimov Institute of Cinematography, and he's been working at BBC and trained at BBC and making documentaries. But I think, two main projects that I'm familiar with, and correct me if Roma will talk to you more about his other projects, deal with actually 20th century Russian writers. So he's been seeking to answer one question really, how a creative writer, how a creative person can survive the conditions of limited creative freedom, and sort of sees different models, how different writers respond to those conditions in the Soviet Union, in particular in the 20th century. And the other project that is really interesting is, in Mandelstam's words, trying to keep my word. Roma is trying to create a unique archive of contemporary poetry, because I think it's very important to him that poetry is alive, that it's heard, not just read. And he's trying to create this contemporary poetical archive. And I'm particularly happy to introduce Roma, who will talk more about his first documentary in the series, because the Anglo-Russian Culture Club ironically started showing those films in the reverse chronological order. We started with a film on Mandelstam, and right now we finally have a chance to see this first film made in 2009, if I'm not mistaken. And I would also like to thank, first of all, Roma for coming and introducing the film, and he'll answer your questions after the screening. And also my particular thanks to Lisa Steinberg for translating the subtitles. That's how this film could be actually seen in the UK. And Alexandra Mikhailova for putting those subtitles together and working using the software to provide subtitles for all of us. Thank you very much, and please welcome Roma.
Thanks for coming. It's a great surprise for me because it's a Sunday afternoon. There's so many things you can do in London. I don't know why you've come here.
They already done all things.
Right. So I'm very glad. Excuse my terrible and very poor English. I'm working on that. I just want to say some very significant words. I'm glad to see you here. I'm glad to see Valentina Baluchina here. Yeah, it's a great honor for me. We've met 9 years ago. I was working on a film on Joseph Brodsky. It's quite a life ago. And during the last 10 years, we've been working on the crossroad of literature, visual arts, trying to reinvent, which is, I know, sounds awful, a sort of a visual language to tell those stories, to be on the same, to be equal to what is written in the Russian language, which I adore and which I love to speak, to read, to write. And there's a very special word in Russian, intelligentsia, which doesn't exist in any other language. And even this word, intelligent, has got nothing to do with a smart or clever or even bright. It still can be a dirty word in Russia. Those of you who don't know that. I mean, you're intelligent. Sounds awful. Like a real, very dirty word after the revolution of 1917. And this is what fascinates me, this life of Russian intelligentsia. Can I say that? Intelligentsia? That means nothing, yeah? That means, I'll try to explore. That's another notebook. I'm just back from Tel Aviv, and I've made a lecture there. The model of the intelligent Russian person to survive through the 20th century. And to make this lecture, I was trying to realize what does that mean, this word intelligentsia or intelligent in Russian. And I was trying to answer those questions. And it's not a lecture now, it's just some very important words for me, because Yury Olesha, the hero of this very fragile, very, very first movie 10 years ago made, is a real Russian intelligent who is trying to stop being intelligent. In 1934, he said those terrible words that I'm dreaming of becoming not an intelligent person. So, and when I try to answer those questions, I think about being guilty, which is, well, this feeling of being guilty, of feeling your own personal fault, is, I think, number one for an intelligent person in Russia. Not even the education or anything else, you know? And it's about everything. It's about revolution or anything that happened in the 20th century, and especially now, when it's a vegetarian time, so-called, and, well, this guy took all the power in our country, and it's always easy to say it's not my fault, but it is my fault and everyone else's fault. And I think that's number one. Because, you know, a so-called intelligentsia is a thinking part of the society. It's a part that is a part of the society that always comes back. And, you know, people, they're afraid to think. They, you know what I mean? If you know what I mean, it's a very scary thing to think about your life. Because, you know, the humanity is always trying to explore some sort of happiness. Well, you go to school and then you go to university and now you do this and that and you'll have a good salary and you'll be happy after all. That's a bullshit. It doesn't work. It doesn't work, unfortunately. So this thinking part of the society is what I call intelligentsia, trying to give some keys, some points for us to keep us together, because nothing keeps us together, actually. Even in Russia, it doesn't matter. Nothing except language and Russian culture, so-called Russian culture. It's a part of the world's culture. You know, Mandelstam said, what is Acme is a part of a poetic movement. Yeah. It's a part. How to say that right? Pascal. There's a very special word. Yeah.
Longing.
Longing. Yeah. Longing.
With nothing to long for.
Longing for the world's culture. Yeah. So there's number one. Feeling guilty. This fault, and I don't know if you know Yury Olesha, who's a great Russian thinker and philologist. I always listen to his lectures, a number of lectures he's made 27 years ago. And there's a special talk about Russian intelligentsia. And he says that it's absolutely necessary, the self-restraint. You know what I mean? Self-restraint. Because, you know, every one of us, almost every one of us, is a very lazy person. I mean, there are some exceptions, of course. I mean, it's always easier to do something or not to do something than to do something else or not to do something else. And you know, this lazy feeling leads all the humanity, and I don't know where it leads us, actually. You know, even when you smoke, it's much easier for you just to throw it somewhere. You know, on every day's routine, that's significant. So this sort of self-restraint keeps us a bit, I don't know, keeps us in the shape of a human being, because we must move somewhere. I mean, it's still easy to kill another person. There's still no human dignity. They don't sell it at the stock exchange. They sell oil, and they think this is the index. But what about human dignity? We will never get there, I know. It's just some of my dreams. Do you remember that film, Pasolini film, Salò 120 Days of Sodom? Do you remember that? And this terrible house where everything's happening, all those dirty things, there are lots of paintings in there. Do you remember that? Lots of avant-garde and abstractionist paintings. I was always thinking, why is that? And one of the reasons, to my point of view, is Pasolini wanted to show that art can move. You know, art and culture, it can move somewhere. There's no revolutions in art. I mean, everything which is called revolution is just a step far away, forward something. And people on that villa, they're not moving. I mean, they're moving back. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to keep you waiting. I'm sorry. Just some other things. Well, humanism is what I've just said. I don't know if we'll ever come to that point that you cannot play on the zone of the dignity of the other person. Dignity is the most, and human's life, of course, human life, it's the most significant thing in the world. That's what we're trying to prove, but it doesn't work if you notice that, especially me who's just been to Moscow for several days. No, it never works. Never works. So we're still like 40,000 years ago. And this humanism is what intelligentsia feels with all their blood and leukocytes, you know, with everything, with all their bodies, dignity. Sorry to keep you so serious. Just, yeah. And some other things I wanted to say about a memory. A memory. It's been 100 years since the Russian Revolution, and thanks London, it was a wonderful year here. Wonderful year with so many exhibitions and all the talks and discussions and everything. There was nothing in Moscow. Can you imagine that? Nothing. They did not try to analyze anything. 100 years experience. And now, before yesterday, 100 years of a Russian civil war, which lasted 5 years and took away, I don't know, 20 million people. I cannot imagine the number. Nobody can count the number of people who died. And it's still silence, where we don't want to analyze it. Because in case we do, we need to do something. And we can't. We're stuck. So these particular movies are very first movies. It's a very fragile thing. And we've just decided to go that way, 2008, 2009. We didn't have any sort of budget or anything, which is not a reason to say that it's a fragile movie. It is, and it's about one of those intelligent people. During the last 30 years, he did nothing. He quit. He did nothing until the very end, until he died of a heart attack. And he was so famous and so bright and so gifted in the beginning, but then it all crashed because of the new era. When 1929 came, the beginning of the first 5-year plan, he just stopped and stuck. And so that's it. Okay, it's just 15 minutes. I'll be back in 15 minutes, and in case you've got several questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Thanks very much for coming here. I'm still surprised. All right. There's no need to. Don't do that. Yeah, I'll be back in 15 minutes. It's a very fragile and unfortunate. It's a serious movie, and the main part plays a real Russian star, a very, very good actor. So I hope he will help us. I didn't read British subtitles. I didn't have time to check it, so I have no idea what kind of movie you'll see. He survived. I mean, on the other hand, he didn't as a writer, but he survived as a human being. And this model, I would say, it's a self-effacement. You know, he's disappeared, like he never existed. Though he was trying to do something, he was writing some articles in newspapers and all things like that. And it's a Soviet, well, let's say Russian-Soviet phenomenon, because lots of people were taken away, lots of people died, lots of them. Well, there's a Black Book of Communism published in Holland, and they say there are 16 million victims of that regime. So was he one of them? I have no idea. I mean, physically not. But he was such a bright person that didn't live his life he should live. You know, if you know what I mean. That's it. If you've got some questions, I will be glad. I'm here to answer them. If you do have any. Thanks very much for coming. Thank you.
We are planning to show. It's our fourth film about writers. We are showing now. We'll try to show the rest, and we'll try to start with a series of these authors from the author. It's a series about where Roma is filming Russian poets, very important and wonderful poets who. Some of them were in England, were in London, some of them will come, but most of them wouldn't, because they either live somewhere in US or from other reasons they cannot come here. But we are planning to start this series. So follow our programs. We are Anglo-Russian Culture Club. Follow our programs and you will see for sure more of Roma's films. Thank you.